Okay, we've got the Pulsar Pier, supplied by First Light Optics, made by Pulsar, Gary at Pulsar. We've also got the 10 micron extension plate on here, which raises it up another 100 mil, I think it is, or 120 mil. And the idea of this is, later on, if they want to go for a bigger scope, we can actually drop it down, and we'll still have space in the observatory. This is the setup that we've got from Ikarus Imaging in conjunction with First Light Optics, supplied by First Light Optics. And this is what is going to go on to the Pulsar Pier. So we thought we'd put together a short video so you guys at home that are going to be using this gear can see what you're using and where it is and how we've set it up. So we've got the Stella Mirar 104 ED2. It's a First Light Optics telescope, really nicely made. Not seen any results from it yet, but we're hopeful that it's going to give some fantastic views and images. Clamps are really nicely made. Focus is nice and robust. It's fitted with a lakeside focuser. Again, attaches really nice and easy. Focuser, we use lots of these, never get any problems. Work really well, give good results. Okay. Now, this is how we set up the telescope. Not everybody does, but we find that remotely this is the best way. We try and get as much stuff above the mount as we possibly can. That way you get less trailing cables. The image train going on the back of the telescope, we've got the Stella Mirar fill flattener. So that's a dedicated piece that you can buy for the scope. We've got all starlight instruments. We've got the 5-position filter wheel for a minute. This is going to be changed for a 7. We've got the Lodestar X2, off-axis guider, the 694 Pro mono camera, which is got the extra cooler, and we've got inside, we've got the 1.25 inch Optilong filters. On the end of the scope, we're putting a Alnitak flip flap, which is used to get flat frames. Now, lots of people use sky flats, so you don't need one of these, but for small refractors, this is perfect. It opens and shuts via the software. You can set the levels of light via the software, so it makes it a really easy way of getting flats. So, first job, mount onto the pier. 2-man job. You've got to be careful that the clutches are done up nice and tight, especially on the 10 microns. You don't want this swinging around. It can be pretty dangerous. It clamps down via 4 of its own dedicated bolts, nice and simple. The pier is already polar aligned and levelled, so you know we know this is in the right place. So next we've got the bar and the counterweights. Now you shouldn't put too much weight on the mount before you get some weight on the top, vice versa. So you shouldn't put too much weight on the top before having the bar and the counterweights on. So it's a bit of a juggling act to get it in the right order, and it's a basic judge of how heavy your telescope is. With big telescopes it's a lot different. You know, you have to have 2 people or 3 people even to mount the scope on, getting the balance right, because it's pretty dangerous with the weight swinging around for you and the gear. So on this occasion it's nice and easy, nice light scope. So we'll just put one weight on and just lock that up. Always put the stopper on, stop it falling off. So again, nice and easy, nice light scope. Literally slide the scope in to a sort of judging the balance. You're not going to get it right first time, and also we've got to add the weight of the camera and the wheel. But for now, we're pretty happy, that's pretty good. Next, camera, nice and simple. We've already pre-assembled with the correct spacers and rings, so it's just they screw it to the telescope. Next, our pre-assembled plate, so with the high-tech hub and the lakeside controller. This just bolts to the top of the plate. Nice and simple, if I can see. Right, next is a flip flap. Really simple, just a big cable tie. Clips to the end of the scope. Want to keep it nice and straight, vertical, and then all we do is tighten up the cable tie-in position, and that's it. Okay, at this point we've got most of the stuff on. It's going to change when we put cables, and we've got a few other bits and pieces to go on, but at this point we want to get a general balance, so not perfection but just close enough so we can actually slew the mount around without having to worry about it falling off or hurting anyone. Okay, so with all our clutches released now, we can see that we can move the scope around. Makes it a lot easier for attaching cables, making sure that we're not going to hit anything. Okay, so the next job is cabling. Now, we've got quite a few cables to go on, so we're going to do that to a bit of music. So it's not so boring for you lot, because it is a matter of all we've got to do is just, as we all know, just plug in the various cables, trying to keep the distances nice and short, trying to keep the roots of the cables nice and neat. We don't want cables that are going to snag anything or snag on the mount when it rotates. So it's just, you've got to be really careful, keep it as neat as possible and as light as possible. We don't want weight cables hanging from the camera, because the mount is capable of unguided photography. Okay, rolling. Okay, so we've now gone through our cabling, we're all done. And as you can see, we've tried to keep it as neat as possible. There's a lot of cables, so you've got to be careful. But the hub makes a fantastic difference. Otherwise, you'd have all of these separate cables would be hanging from the mount. And all we've actually got is two cables. So we've got the power supply for the hub, and we've got the main USB for the hub. Everything else runs off the hub. So we've got all of our power supplies, we've got all of our USBs, very short cables. We can keep them nice and neat and tight. And the really important thing is that you try and make it so the USBs don't move, because the biggest failure of USB cables is when they move. So we clamp them wherever we can, and as you can see, it moves nice and easy. And what we've done, we've got this loop that we can adjust until we get it in the final position. So this will loop around no matter where the telescope is pointing. This loop will take out any of the movement of the mount. As you can see, it moves quite freely, doesn't snag in any position. Okay. We've got a couple of extras on here that most people wouldn't have on their telescopes. We've got an all-sky camera, ZWO-120 on the front, which gives the owner a nice view of what's going on, see whether it's clear. Although we've got all the sensors and stuff, it's quite nice to be able to do that yourself. And we've also got a little gizmo that we're going to put on there, and it's an Astro M-Box. And this feeds information to the mount. Okay, so now we've got all of our stuff on the telescope and all the stuff on the mount. We can now do a final balance. Now on the 10 micron, they've got their own software-based balance routine. So you just get it as close as you can, and then the software takes over. Or do we? We've got a Stellar Miral 102. Dew controller, the dedicated focal reducer, flattener, field flattener. It's not a reducer, it's a flattener.